Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. I was asked to have a seminar on Bhagavad-gītā, as it is. Today is a special day. It's appearance day of Varaha-deva. And Varaha-deva is a very special Lord's incarnation that saves the earth from the bottom of the ocean, Garbhodaka ocean. And as Lord Varaha-deva killed Hiranyaksha and saved the earth from the bottom of Garbhodaka ocean, let us pray to Lord Varaha-deva to save our consciousness, to kill all our demons in our hearts, and to save our consciousness from the bottom of material existence, of the ocean of material existence. Yes. And the Lord, in His unlimited mercy and kindness, is coming again and again to this world, as confirmed in 4th chapter of Bhagavad-gītā. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanirbhavati bharata abhyutanama dharmasya tadatmanam sarjamaham. Just to deliver those paritranaya sadhanam vinashaya chudushkritam dharma sanstapanarthaya sambhavami yogi yogi. To deliver those who are engrossed in material consciousness, but that they can, if they have a little fraction of attraction to the Supreme or to some Dharma, Lord will help them to get out of this material illusion and rise them to spiritual consciousness. Yes, but it's very important that we don't harbor any cheating mentality. This is explained in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, Dharma projita kaitavatra paramo nirmatsaranam satam. That all this cheating mentality should be kicked out from our heart. Yes, otherwise our consciousness will not be saved by the Lord, because we will choose not to be saved. Yes, and we should know that the Lord is the personification of complete freedom, and we as living entities also have complete freedom to the minute degree, because we are minute by our nature. So we have complete freedom to the minute degree. And so Lord respects our complete freedom. And if we don't really want to connect with all our heart to the Lord, Lord doesn't force us with this. So He let us live according to our desires. Yes. And this is also confirmed in Bhagavad-gītā in 4th chapter. Ye atamam prapadanti tam stateva bhajamaham. So we will discuss Bhagavad-gītā. Bhagavad-gītā is a very special book. It is the essence of Mahabharata. And Srila Vyasadeva wrote the whole scripture of Mahabharata with the sole purpose that people would read Bhagavad-gītā. And Bhagavad-gītā is really a tiny fraction of Mahabharata. It's a vast scripture, Mahabharata. Yes. Hundred thousands of verses. And Bhagavad-gītā has only 700 verses. Yes. And so it's not even 1% of Mahabharata. So, but because people are interested in intrigue, in love, in hate, in fight, in politics, and so many different topics, Vyasadeva compiled everything of these, what people are interested in, but also gave this most profound wisdom of Bhagavad-gītā. And Bhagavad-gītā actually is not just a story of Pandavas or Arjuna, how he's facing his attachments on the battlefield of Kurukshetra and his weaknesses, but actually it is written for every one of us. It is meant for us. It's a story of a human existence, actually, not just of one person, but of every one of us who are in material world. And with which word the Bhagavad-gītā starts? Sorry? Yes, but there is one Dhritarashtra. With Dhritarashtra. Dhritarashtra uvacha. Dharmakshetre kurukshetre samavita yutsava. Mama kah pandavaschiva kima kurvata sanjaya. Yes, Dhritarashtra. And what does Dhritarashtra mean? Yes, not just attachment to the land, but grasping another person's land. And that was his position. He wanted his brother's land or his nephew's land. Dhritarashtra. And he was blind. Besides that, he wanted other person's wealth or land, he was also blind. And he was not blind only physically, he was blind also spiritually and emotionally and on every level of existence, actually. And every living entity who is not completely surrendered to the Lord is actually blind. So, every living entity that comes into this world, or it is in this world, and all of us, except if one is fortunate enough that he is Nitya Siddha, came here in this world with blindness about ourselves, blindness of reality, and in blindness with this desire to encroach on others' property. Yes. We want others' wealth. We want to enjoy as everything is ours. But actually, we know from Bhagavad-gītā and from other scriptures that Krishna is the proprietor of everything. So if we think that anything is ours, this is Dhritarashtra mentality. Yes. It's my husband, my wife, my home, my car, my shoes, my whatever. Yes. This is Dhritarashtra mentality, actually. And it's a sign of blindness. Yes. But the positive thing of such Dhritarashtras is inquiry. And Bhagavad-gītā starts with inquiry. Yes. And this is the essence of human development, or spiritual development, we can say, is inquiry. And Krishna also instructs Arjuna, also in 4th chapter, that he should inquire, that he should surrender to spiritual master, the one who has seen the truth. Tad vidi pranipatena pariprashnena siva upadekshanti te jnanam jnanena tattva darshana. That you should surrender to him. Pranipatena means you should fall down like a stick. Yes. In front of your spiritual master and render service to him, and ask questions, inquire from him about the absolute truth. Yes. And this is also instruction of the 4 verses of Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaturshloki Srimad Bhagavatam, where it is explained, Etavat eva jigyasan tattva jigyasanatmana anvaya vyatirekavyam yat syat sarvatra sarvada. That one should inquire, one should seek the truth in all circumstances, at all times, directly and indirectly. Yes. And this is 2nd canto, 9th chapter. And in the beginning of Bhagavatam, in 2nd chapter of 1st canto, it is explained that Kamasya nendriya pritilabho jivita yavata jivasya tattva jigyasa narto yasheha karmabi. That one should live only to inquire about absolute truth. Yes. So this inquiry about absolute truth is essential for spiritual development. And this inquiry means also sadhana bhakti. Yes, this is sadhana bhakti. Inquiry means sadhana bhakti. When we chant our rounds, when we read, when we hear, whatever we do for our sadhana, when we perform some services, practical services, if we do it in proper consciousness, this is all inquiry, actually. Inquiry about absolute truth. Inquiry about connection. Yoga means connection. So it's absolute necessity that we inquire, that we engage in devotional service. And this engagement in sadhana bhakti means inquiry. And of course we need guidance. And here we can see in the 1st chapter of Bhagavad-gītā that Dhritarashtra inquires, and from not just from anyone, but from Sanjaya, who received knowledge from Vyasadeva. Yes. So if we want to achieve proper knowledge, we should achieve it from parampara, from proper source. That from the source, from someone who received this knowledge from proper source also. And Vyasadeva is known as Lord's incarnation, literary incarnation, for or writer or author of most profound books. So, and then this inquiry is very significant of Dhritarashtra. Dharma kshetre kurukshetre. He is asking about dharma kshetra, about dharma actually. Yes, and he is afraid. Dharma kshetra kurukshetra samaveta yutsaha. Mamakah pandavaschiva kimakurvata sanjaya. Yes, because this place of Kuru, or Kurukshetra, this field, is field of dharma. And everyone actually, if he wants to be alive, somehow or other has to face dharma. Yes. Even if we want to go along with other people, we have to follow certain dharma. Yes. Even most ardent atheists and cheaters, they are cheaters just because they pretend to follow some moral rules, aren't they? Otherwise, they would just rob you frankly. So they are cheaters because they pretend to follow some dharma. So everyone has to face dharma in some way or another. So he's asking for this purpose. They assembled on the field of dharma. This place is a field of dharma. Because everything is run under the Lord's supervision. Mayadhyakshina prakritik suyate sacharacharam hitunana kauntana jigat viparivartate. Lord says in 9th chapter of Bhagavad-gītā that everything is happening according to his supervision. Yes. So everyone is faced with dharma, if he wants or not. And Dhritarashtra here, who is blind, he's afraid of dharma. And actually everyone in this material world is somewhat afraid of dharma. Otherwise we would completely surrender immediately to Krishna. Yes. With no reservation. So if we have any reservation, we are afraid of dharma in some way or another. Yes. So more we are like Dhritarashtra, more we are like blind and wanting to encroach on others' land. That means Krishna's property. More we are afraid of dharma. And one other thing is really important in his question. He says, Mamakah Pandavaschiva. Mamakah means my. What did my sons and Pandu's sons do? What did they do when they assembled in fighting spirit on this holy land or Dharmakshetra of Kurus? And this is the land of their common forefathers of Kuru. Yes. And who was also famous as a dharmic personality. Yes. So when he says Mamakah Pandavaschiva, he puts distinction between my sons and Pandu's sons. Even in modern India, if there are families of brothers, they both, these brothers, consider both children of his brother and his own children as his own children. It's natural. Yes. I've heard a story from my spiritual master once, how he was in one house in which there were many different families. of brothers and sisters and grandfather and grandmother. But many brothers and sisters were living in the same house, and there were many children. And then Maharaj asked one child, who are your parents? Shipanchatatva ki jai. And he said that all these are my parents. And he asked him, yes, but who is your real father and mother? And he said for certain persons, but he said that we consider all our uncles and aunts as our father and mother. And also they considered all children as their own children. They made no distinction between one and another. And this was in modern times. What to speak 5,000 years ago? It was unheard of that one would consider his brother's sons as some other people. And not that they were just his brother's sons. His brother was dead. Can you imagine the deepness of viciousness of Dhritarashtra? Because his brother was dead, so they were helpless. His brother's children were helpless. So it was his fatherly duty, actually, to take care of them as their own, as his own sons. Yes, but he made this distinction as Mamakah Pandavaschiva. What did my sons and Pandu's sons? Yes. So this is called Pritak Bhava. We mentioned when I was previously here, I believe, this Pritak Bhava, this separate identity. Yes, this is mine, this is I, this is mine, and this is someone else. And I love what is I and what is mine. Yes, this is called raga. I'm attached to these things that is I and that is mine. And whatever, and this is not just, for example, my book, my shoes, and whatever we said before, but the whole world that I consider to support my existence is I and mine. Understand? So I love my family. My family is also part of my world. I love my nation. I love my football club. I love this. I love that. I love this particular food. I love this, my language. I love my culture. I love so many different things. So all these constitute my world. And I love everything that supports my world. And I hate everything that I consider that's some kind of threat to my world. Yes. And this is called dvesha. And because of these distinctions we make, we are separate from the Lord, because the Lord is absolute. And this is called Pritak Bhava. We take ourselves, we separate ourselves from the Lord. Yes, and because of this raga and dvesha and this material consciousness, there is abhinivesha, or deep absorption in material existence, or fear, deep fear of losing our existence. That doesn't mean just our life, means everything. Yes, that our football club will lose against other football club, or that I will not be considered in the eyes of others as great personality, or whatever. Yes, we are attached to these things. Yes. So, and then we make distinctions. And this is Pritak Bhava. So, Dhritarashtra is an example of this Pritak Bhava, of strong Pritak Bhava. And then first chapter is very important. Many times devotees skip first chapter because they think Krishna doesn't speak in first chapter, so it's not so important. Just the description of what is happening on the battlefield. But we should understand the first chapter of Bhagavad-gītā is a basis to understand the whole Gita, the whole message of Krishna. And it is then there are two personalities that are presented vividly in first chapter, and these two are who? Which? Sorry? Duryodhana is one, yes, and Arjuna. Especially these two are presented in the first chapter. And it's interesting that both have the same problem, Arjuna and Duryodhana. Both are materialistic. Yes. Yeah. But one is pious materialist and other is demoniac materialist. Yes, this is the difference between these two personalities. And demoniac materialist uses everyone for his prosperity. Yes. And we can see his language from the very beginning of Bhagavad-gītā is extremely diplomatic. Yes, that means he wants to achieve his purpose by any means. Yes. He says, for example, he comes to Drona, who is his military teacher, not just his, but also of Pandavas. And he says, Pashyetam Pandu Putranam Acharya Mahatim Chamum, Vyudam Drupada Putrana Tava Shishina Dhimata. Just see the mighty army of Pandavas who was arrayed by your wise and smart disciple, the son of Drupada. Yes, this is very significant statement of Duryodhana, because Drupada was an arch enemy of Drona. Yes, and his son Drishtadyumna was a general in Pandava's army. And although Drona knew that Drupada performed yagya and got his son Drishtadyumna with the sole purpose to kill Drona, he nevertheless taught him this military science. And Duryodhana, in other words, he politely said, "My Guru Maharaj, you are stupid. You taught this spiritual, this military science to one who will kill you." Yes. So he wanted he knew that Drona was very inclined to Pandavas. And he wanted to entice his fighting spirit, to entice his anger against Pandavas. So this army is arrayed by your smart disciple. He didn't say Drishtadyumna, but Drupada's son. To remind him, Drupada is your enemy, and you instructed your enemy's son. Yes, in this military science. So he was extremely diplomatic, and he goes on like this, on and on, in this spirit. Yes, and he first mentions two personalities on the enemy's side. And which personalities he mentioned in the beginning?
Bhima.
Sorry? Bhima and? Arjuna. He was most afraid of these two personalities, of Bhima and Arjuna. And he said that many warriors who are like Bhima and Arjuna assembled here. Yes. And first he mentioned Bhima, yes. He was most afraid of Bhima, because Bhima vowed in the assembly when they tried to disrobe Draupadi. He vowed that he will kill all the sons of Dhritarashtra. 101 son of Dhritarashtra. Yes. And he kept his promise. Yes. So he was most afraid of Bhima. And then he went on, as I said, in this spirit. And he says that here on the other side, in my army, there are people like you. That means Drona. And then he immediately says Bhishma, because Bhishma was the most powerful fighter, and he would be insulted if he wouldn't be mentioned in the beginning. But because Drona is Brahmana, so it's proper to mention Brahmana first, and he accepted to be mentioned the second. Bhishma. Yes. Bhavan Bhishmascha Karnascha. And then he immediately mentioned Karna. Yes. Karna, who was not even considered a Kshatriya, but it was very important to mention Karna because he was, besides Bhishma, the most powerful fighter on his side. And there was always a fight between Bhishma and Karna. Bhishma knew that Karna is very dangerous for the Pandavas, and he was always belittling Karna. How he mentioned different Maharatis and Atiratis, different great fighters, and of course he didn't mention Karna amongst them. And then someone asked, what about Karna? And he says that he's not even Ardharati, that means half of a warrior. And so Karna was so upset because of Bhishma that he said that as long as Bhishma will fight, I will not fight. Yes. So he didn't want to fight as long as Bhishma will fight. And this was very good for the Pandavas. So he had to mention Karna immediately after Bhishma, yes, to stress his importance. Yes, Bhavan Bhishmascha Karnascha Kripascha Simatim Jaya. And then he mentioned another Brahmana, Kripa, who is also his spiritual master. and that he will not be insulted because he was mentioned on after so much people. He says that Samitimja, that he's always victorious. And then he mentions Ashwatthama, who is Drona's son, and Vikarna. And Vikarna was not the best of fighters. He had many better fighters. But why he mentioned Vikarna? Anyone knows? He mentioned Vikarna because he was the only one of Duryodhana's brothers who stand against them when they wanted to disrobe Draupadi. Yes, he said that this is not proper. Yes, and so he was afraid that he might take the Pandavas' side. So he mentioned him immediately after those most powerful warriors. Yes. And then he says, Anyecha Bhakavakshurama Dharta Tyakta Jivita. And that means, and there are many other warriors who are ready to be killed for my purpose. And this is a sign that all of his army will be killed, including himself. Yes. So, and he doesn't mind that all his men will be killed just for his selfish purpose. Yes. This is demoniac materialist. Yes, this is a sign of demoniac materialists. They don't care, these demoniac people, they don't care if others suffer, because just for them to be happy. What they consider happiness. Yes. But on the other side, there is Arjuna. And he wants to fight his enemy. But first he wanted to see what is happening. Yes. He's not blind as Dhritarashtra was blind. And he's not diplomatic just to win the war for any price, to kill everyone. But he wanted to see to whom he has to fight. Yes. So he didn't want to do anything blindly. This is also important. And he turned to Krishna to show him, yes, what is going on. And this is another thing that is crucial for one who is pious. To turn to Krishna to show him what is going on in this life. Then we can get a proper vision. And if we are sincere, Krishna will take our chariot, like he took Arjuna's chariot, and will take us to our most cherished attachments. Yes. Bhishma Drona Pramukatah Sarveksham Mahikshitam Uvacha Partha Pashetan Samavetan Kuruniti. These are Krishna's words in Bhagavad-gītā, in the first chapter, only words in the first chapter. Yes. He says, just see, O Partha, all the Kurus that they have assembled here. And this is very important. And where he drove his chariot, Bhishma Drona Pramukata, just in front of Bhishma and Drona. Yes, this is very important because Bhishma and Drona were everything for Arjuna. When they returned from the forest to Hastinapura when Pandu died, they were completely helpless actually. in Hastinapura. Their only protector was Bhishma and Vidura was not fighting because he was insulted by Duryodhana before and went for a pilgrimage, left everything, even his bow. And the other great personality that Arjuna really worshipped, not just liked or loved, but even worshipped, was Drona, his teacher. So Krishna brought this chariot just in front of these two personalities. That meant most for Arjuna. Yes. And then Arjuna broke down. And he said, I cannot fight. Why should I fight against these personalities for whom we want to have a kingdom? Yes. Why we would want to have a kingdom for the price of lives of these people? Because we want to have kingdom for their purpose. This is Arjuna's argument. Yes. And he says it's sinful, even though they are maybe want to fight against us for the same purpose, but it's sinful to kill such attackers. And it's sinful to fight against your relatives and friends. And if we kill such people, then the whole family tradition will be lost. And if family tradition will be lost, then dharma will be lost. And if dharma will be lost, then women will not be protected. And they will get corrupt. And they will have unwanted children. It doesn't mean unwanted that they wouldn't want, but unwanted from the viewpoint of society. No one wants such corrupt children. So they're unwanted from society point of view. And such corrupt children will not observe family traditions, and because of this, the whole society will go to hell. And this is not just my idea. I've heard this from my superiors. So he quoted Guru Parampara. So it's very important. And it seems that his logic is perfect, isn't it? Arjuna's logic is perfect, and he's very pious. He don't want to fight against his friends and relatives and make the whole society to go to hell. And he says, Yadi mama pratikarama shastram shastrapana dartarashtraranehanyus dan mekshemataram bhavit. It's better to be killed unarmed by Dhritarashtra's sons than to kill these people. Yes. It's very interesting. Very interesting. And first he said, before, when he just saw these relatives, he started to tremble. Yes, and his skin was burning. And his bow, Gandiva, was slipping from his hand. And at the end of first chapter, he put even away his bow. And before the battle of Kurukshetra, he said that if anyone would say that put away your Gandiva, I will kill him. But now he himself put away his bow. Actually, in some way, he killed himself by this act. He killed his personality. And it's very interesting, because one would think that this Arjuna's stance towards his enemies, or in fact, as he considered them, his relatives and friends, is very, very proper, isn't it? One would think like this. But actually, Arjuna's attitude is the basis, the very basis of all violence in this world. Interesting, isn't it? Because he didn't want to fight. He didn't want to use violence. But his attitude is the basis of all violence. Why is this?
Maybe because if he doesn't stand up against those who are actually destroying Duryodhana, the Kurus, or demons, if he doesn't stand up against them and takes to so-called saintly behavior and going to the forest, then no one would, in the future people would follow in his footsteps and no one would go against evil forces.
Yes, this is one important aspect, but there is even more profound and important one. And this is, he didn't want to fight his relatives and friends. That means he also put this logic. These are my friends, my relatives, my world. And it's not proper to fight them because I will lose. This is not beneficial for my world. So, demoniac personality has very narrow consideration what is my and what is I. But pious personality includes many people in this regard. Yes. But if there would be some strangers, these enemies, he would kill them immediately, without any consideration, because he was trained killer. He is not so soft-hearted as one would think. Yes. Just remember one Leela of Krishna and Arjuna before this happened, of this battle on Kurukshetra. We are a little late, but I will tell you this story. There was Agni. Agni is a god of fire. And he, because of many sacrifices, he ingested too much of ghee. And because of too much of ghee, he had digestive problems. And he wanted to get to be relieved from these digestive problems, to consume some medicinal herbs that were growing only in Kandava forest. But whenever he wanted to burn down the Kandava forest to get these herbs, Indra sent forth rain to extinguish the fire, because this Kandava forest was under the protection of Indra. So he couldn't get to these medicinal herbs. And then he asked Arjuna for help. And Arjuna, of course, as a Kshatriya, his duty was to help Agni in this regard. And therefore, Arjuna and Krishna went to this forest of Khandava, and then Agni came to consume these herbs and to consume the whole forest, actually. And immediately Indra came with his rains. But Arjuna was shooting arrows so densely that he created a roof over the whole Khandava forest. So not even a drop of these torrential rains of Indra didn't fall on the forest. So the forest was burning very much. And then animals wanted to escape from this burning forest. But whatever animal escaped, Arjuna shot it dead immediately with his arrows. So he was merciless killer, actually. And he shot all the animals that tried to escape the forest, the burning forest. He spared only Mayadanava, a demon who took shelter of Arjuna. Yes, Mayadanava was also in this forest, but he took shelter of Arjuna, so Arjuna spared his life. And then, in his gratefulness, he constructed an assembly hall for Pandavas in Indraprastha. And this assembly hall was not ordinary assembly hall. It was a magic one, because he was a great magician, this Mayadanava. And he created such an assembly hall that enemies would see everything wrong in this assembly hall. They would change solid floor for water, and they would change water for solid floor. And this was the reason, one of the reasons why there was even greater hatred amongst Kauravas and Pandavas. Because after Rajasuya Yagya, Duryodhana came to this assembly hall, to this palace, actually. It was not just assembly hall, it was palace. And when he saw a solid floor, he was thinking it's water, but it actually was solid floor. So he lifted his garments, but there was a solid floor. But when he saw a solid floor, it was actually water, and he fell into the water. And Pandavas, especially Bhima, were laughing. And also Draupadi was laughing at Duryodhana. And then she said something very hard for Duryodhana. And she said that the blind man's son is also blind. And this was the most severe arrow in Duryodhana's heart. And then he wanted to take revenge on Draupadi also, and he wanted to disrobe her. And because of all this extreme hatred was amongst Pandavas and Dhartarashtras. Yes, so this is the same problem actually, this Pritak Bhava, because Arjuna was really a trained killer. He wouldn't shun away from fight. He was a fighter. But because these were his relatives and friends, therefore he didn't want to fight. So this is the same mentality as Duryodhana had, but pious, and Duryodhana had demoniac. But both they had materialistic mentality. So this materialistic mentality should be removed, should be killed, if we want to progress in our spiritual path. And this will begin with second chapter of Bhagavad-gītā. But today now is not the time to discuss this. I hope we will not go so slow, because if we'll go, we'll have to wait for another visit of mine to end Bhagavad-gītā. And do you like such tempo? It's okay for you? Or it's too slow?
Yeah, I like the tempo.
Okay. Is there any question or comment? Do we have time for this? Yes.
First, there was one, I was reading recently first chapter of Bhagavad-gītā, and Prabhupada again and again in the chapter emphasizes in the purpose the Arjuna's affection for relatives and for the and so on the other side shows his soft-heartedness.
Yes.
And but still he's doing the wrong thing, but still Prabhupada glorifies him.
Yes.
So what is the
Yes, very interesting. Prabhupada glorifies in first chapter, he glorifies Arjuna because of his soft heart, as he put it. But in next chapter, he then criticizes Arjuna as materialistic and that, yes, that he's illusioned, actually. It's important to understand in this regard that Prabhupada wants to present Arjuna as a pious person who turns ultimately to Krishna. Yes. And his disposition is much better than Duryodhana's, because Duryodhana didn't turn to Krishna. He turned away from Krishna. He wanted to kill Krishna. Yes, he wanted to capture Krishna when Krishna came to negotiate peace. Yes. So Duryodhana was outright demoniac, but on the other hand, Arjuna was pious, as I mentioned. And because of this piety, Prabhupada glorifies him. Yes, I've just finished the answer. So yes, he glorifies him just for this reason, because he is pious, and he's turning to Krishna from the very beginning. Because his words from first chapter is just he's speaking to Krishna and to no one else, actually. Yes. So because of this, he's glorious, because he's turning to Krishna. Of course, we can see his cheating mentality in his words, but he didn't even know that these are cheating. This is cheating mentality. He just wants to be dharmic. He's pointing out dharma very much. His purpose is to be dharmic, but because of ignorance, he doesn't know how to be properly dharmic. Yes, but he wants to be a righteous person. Therefore, he's glorious, and he's worthy to be glorified. Yes. And then, because of his attitude, he was helped and supported by Krishna. Yes. Hare Krishna. Yes, please.
Yeah, is it okay if I comment also on the same question?
Yes.
Yeah, because there is also one big difference. That is that this is situational. Arjuna is not generally just a pious guy who cares about his family. He's a pure devotee. He's always there with Krishna. And in this special situation, Krishna is putting him under some illusion so that these things will come out, so that we have this great example. But at the same time, when Prabhupada points out these good qualities in the softness of the heart, it's also really healthy for us. We don't become fanatics. Somebody tells us to kill, we go and kill. We actually consider it, we look at it from all the direction. We go to a trusted authority, because Arjuna is not going home to mope. He's opening himself to Krishna to be corrected also. But this softness of heart is a quality of a devotee. Arjuna, he is not requested to be an unthinking killing machine. In this specific instance, it's a war. In this specific instance, Krishna is showing how your calculations are logical, but you are missing one important component. So I actually think it's very encouraging. One verse, Prabhupada says, "Oh, this is just ignorance. He has to get out of that." And the next verse, Prabhupada says, "This shows him as a great devotee," because this understanding is very deep. We don't just go out and kill. We also listen to the softness of our heart. And then when we're confused, we go to somebody who is unconfused.
Yes, very good. Thank you for this explanation.
I just wanted to add it.
Yes,
I
yes.
want to change what I wanted to add.
Yes. Thank you very much. It's important to understand this point also. Anything else? Yes.
Diplomacy. Sometimes I know that I myself am using diplomacy to kind of. What is the right utility of diplomacy?
Yes. Of course, diplomacy is also a part of ordinary human dealings. But if our motive in diplomacy is to achieve selfish purpose, then it's not proper use of diplomacy. Diplomacy should be used for everyone's welfare. Yes. With the idea that I'm the servant. If I use it in this regard, and I choose my words to encourage others to serve Krishna, not for my sake, but for Krishna's sake and for their sake, I'm just acting as their servant, then it's proper use of any kind of skill, even diplomatic skill. Yes. And we can see in different pastimes, even between gopis and Krishna, they use also diplomatic words. Sama and Beda. It's different. I'm not remembering all types of this diplomatic speech. One is to pacify the other person. One is to divide. To this Beda, called Beda, and Sam is to pacify him. Yes. So this is used all the time, actually, to some degree or another, by everyone. But it should be used in a sense, I'm a servant, and I don't. Not with the purpose to manipulate others, but with the purpose to serve them. Yes. Hare Krishna. Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gantaraj Bhagavad-gītā ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Please accept my humble